is my dear colleague, Milena Vučinić. She's currently having a position of advisor for project management and innovation at the Central Bank of Montenegro. Out of her biography, I would like to point out that she was Hubert Humphrey Fellow. She is a fellow at Boston University with a specialization in banking, finance, and economic development. And today she will be talking about artificial intelligence and generative AI, the topic that we extensively discussed during these seminars, but now as a driving force for innovation in the central banks. Milena, the floor is yours, and thank you.
Hello, everybody. Let me just open my presentation from the beginning, because I had some small technical issues. My name is Milena. As Milo already introduced me, it's my pleasure to be here today. And I'm grateful to Milo for inviting me for these very interesting discussions. I researched a little bit about your fellowship and a little bit like I researched the fellows. So I wanted to make sure the presentation actually reach out to a greater audience, because I saw it's people coming from different backgrounds and with different interests. So that's why I wanted to make sure that it's not really only central banks and something which may be not really interesting for everybody. But I believe that artificial intelligence touches up on almost every aspect of life today. And it can be interesting for all people listening to us, I'm sure about that. So my presentation we will see how long it's going to take, but I'll try to be as brief and also to be clear when I explain what I have to say. And as the title says, the topic of the presentation is artificial intelligence, financial innovations, and challenges for central banks. This is just like a brief content, what I'm going to speak about. Of course, you can also feel free maybe to interrupt, although I know that it's a planned Q&A after the presentation, but I'm open to questions even during the speech. So first, I will just give some, let's say, brief explanation about technological developments and AI and its impact. Then AI as a driving force of innovation, which is, I think, something we're all gonna, agree on that. Financial innovation, as I'm coming from central bank and financial industry, we really pay a lot of attention to innovation in this industry. Of course, in the wider sectors, but financial industry with priority. Challenges to central banks, then AI trade-off. I think it's always a very interesting discussion regarding trade-off for AI, because on one side, it's innovative, brings a lot of modernization, but on the other side, it's security, and it's kind of a trade-off in between innovation and being cautious. Then benefits and risks of AI. I think there we can speak a lot. There are a lot of benefits, but still a lot of concerns and things we have to think about deeply and with precautions, and also with bringing a lot of risks, as we all know. The more AI develops, the risks develops as well. And at the end, I will just briefly sum up my speech so you can maybe catch up better to give your questions or maybe some your own views on these topics, etc. Here is the disclaimer about just regular, because the views are of mine and not necessarily of the institution, but still I always try to be really on what the central bank has attitudes about the topic I'm speaking about. So AI, as I already said, technological advancements and generally developments, and particularly AI, play significant roles in reshaping industries. And of course, it's the case in the financial sector as well. AI is absolutely the driving force of innovation. It's not that new. It's been the case. It's been around, but it has always been definitely a driving force. And recently, especially with the development of Gen AI. AI is among the most powerful and influential forces in modern technology. And it does impact various industries, as I already mentioned, and daily life of people. It interferes in the various industries, including finance and in daily activities, whereas it presents a lot of advantages, but also comes with risks. It changes daily life and work. So technologies like robots, self-driving cars, smart home devices, among many others, I just used a couple of examples, are altering how we live and work, and raising at the same time a lot of concerns about the potential takeover of routine tasks. And we'll talk a little bit more later about the potential of taking over the jobs and positions in various industries. In today's fast evolving technology landscape, AI offers the potential to improve efficiency, as I said already, drive innovation, and provide new services in many industries. But also creates challenges, and I'm sure we all can agree upon that. Cybersecurity threats are absolutely among the most emphasized. And what also it can bring, those are the risks relevant to exacerbating the inequalities. Being a leader in adopting the digital technologies, the financial industry is really under pressure when it comes to balancing innovation with security and fairness. Especially the invention of generative artificial intelligence, or Gen AI, has significantly influenced processes throughout numerous industries, and of course, financial one. The possibilities to and ability to imitate human behavior is something that really is maybe sometimes you can also say scary, because we have computers which actually behaves like people, and it can be big source of fraudulent actions and abuse and etc. So on the other side, but on the other side, it can also be beneficial at some industries where it can just replicate the work of humans, but for some beneficial results, like, for example, developing efficiency, increasing efficiency in work, etc. Financial technology, which actually refers to using the technologies, as the word said itself, in financial sector, brings a lot of tech benefits, including modernization of payment services, cheaper and faster transactions, decentralization and diversification of finance, transparency, as well as easier access to finance, contributing to financial inclusion. But also, fintech may influence financial stability. There are various channels. They can be broadly diversified as microfinancial and macrofinancial. In micro refers to various financial channels and operational sources of risk. On the macrofinancial level, it usually refers to contagion, excess volatility, systemic importance, and etc. Speaking about central banks, and I'm coming from the Central Bank of Montenegro, we can say that central banks are very often perceived as very traditional institutions, but it's actually not like that, really. Central banks are doing making a lot of efforts to catch up with modern trends. But what is the priority? The central banks are constantly focused on achieving their core objectives, and those are preserving financial and monetary stability, and also contributing to economic growth. So there is no trade when it comes to key objectives of central banks. So they're trying a lot to modernize, to follow the new dynamic changes that are surrounding us, to adopt to the requirements and needs of the market and consumers, but at the same time to always really keep focus on achieving its key goals and preserving the stability of financial systems. Accordingly, all these dynamics and changes bring a lot of challenges to central banks, particularly the rise of unsupervised fintech companies using AI tools, highlighting the need for regulatory oversight in this evolving landscape. Fintech has the potential, as already said, to impact financial stability. especially with the rise of new forms of digital payments such as cryptocurrencies and stable coins. I see a little technical mistake here. It's missing the S, so I'll change it. It's stable coins. Modernization, as I said, and fintechs are very welcome today, but it's very important them also to keep under the supervision and to be developed according to the regulatory requirements, because other ways they can create some more possibility for risks and impacts to financial sector. And speaking about financial systems, the problems in one part of infrastructure and financial system can spread further and endanger the financial stability. This is why central banks are always really focused on preserving it. Development of financial innovation can challenge the traditional use of central bank money and bank deposits. This is especially primarily because of the reasons of these cryptocurrencies, crypto assets, stable coins, tokens, etc. Generally digital payments, because they do help people to maybe be more faster and efficient, but it's important to make sure that they are really relevant and secure. In today's world of dynamic change, it's already said central banks stay focused on achieving their key goals. Central banks can use their AI tools in preserve their policy objectives and in addressing evolving challenges. This is when I said that central banks are not conservative in terms of not wanting to change. They do apply various services. Central banks are already applying AI tools, for example, in statistics and supervision, but everything is under the with a very lot of cautious and making sure that it is a secure system. So they wouldn't apply any software or tool which is too risky to endanger data that are in the central bank basis. So central banks do support innovation and rising use of AI tools, but to make sure they use for the better efficiency and for beneficial purposes. To ensure access to central bank money and preserve financial stability in this time of digital transformation, central banks are making strong efforts to respond to market requirements. Accordingly, they are building technological infrastructures to prevent cyber attacks, modernizing payment systems, and testing central bank digital currencies. As people increasingly prefer to pay digitally and online commerce expands, the role of cash as a universal payment solution is declining. So many central banks, including ECB, are testing the CBDC solutions. What I wanted to mention here is although central banks are testing central bank digital currencies and generally experimenting with digital currencies, it's important to understand that central banks always emphasize that the cash will always keep in circulation and will be provided in necessary amounts. So this is not the substitute for cash. It's just the additional way how people can pay. Especially new generations prefer faster, cheaper, expedited type of payments. That's why even central banks are in order to respond to market requirements, they are testing other possibilities. As I said, there is a trade-off in between innovation and caution. Generative AI, especially with its ability to stimulate human-like behavior, is reshaping the financial industry by automating tasks, improving decision-making, and enhancing customer service. However, it also introduces ethical concerns around transparency, accountability, and fairness, which must be addressed through responsible development and deployment of AI tools. Hence, it is important to develop human-centric innovations, where AI tools create benefits and serve people instead of replacing them. AI can deteriorate inequality, so policymakers should act towards developing policies that will ensure artificial intelligence is used for the good of people and provide benefits for them. And I'm stressing out again, we need a human-centric artificial intelligence. I'm always very or support AI, but I personally think and professionally believe that it's really important to keep it human-centric, so people cannot be excluded and they have to be involved in the AI development, and AI can really support many functions, expedite many activities, operations, increase efficiency, but it always and that's why it always has to be human-centric. Accordingly, it is necessary to adopt a robust regulatory framework and build strong and resilient institutions with developed systems for prevention of ever-rising cyber attacks. In June 2024, the European Union adopted the world's first rules on AI. They're called the Artificial Intelligence Act, which will be fully applicable 24 months after entering into force, but some parts will be applicable even earlier. Priority was to make sure that AI systems used in the EU are safe, transparent, traceable, non-discriminatory, and environmentally friendly. The law aims to support AI innovation and startups in Europe, allowing companies to develop and test generated purpose AI models before public release. According to IMF recent analysis, and I'm speaking about April 2025, World Economic Outlook, AI is an emerging source of productivity and economic growth that's also reshaping employment and investment. Therefore, if coupled with an expected substantial annual reduction in AI usage costs and future technological advancements, it could boost productivity and consumption significantly. AI may contribute to knowledge spillovers across industries and regions, fostering innovation and driving down costs globally. There is a lot of debate about machines replacing workers. This isn't new. As I already mentioned, AI has been around in some forms around decades so far. AI has huge appetite for energy. This is like a big issue. According to the IMF's April World Economic Outlook, adoption of generative AI models requires building more data centers that consumes vast amounts of electricity. Data centers are expected to be a substantial driver of even higher electricity demand in the coming years. This increasing demand for electricity has complicated the process and intentions of you to decarbonize energy. We know that you want to be 2050 zero CO2, so it's a very great and fantastic and challenging target, but that's why we have this trade-off. On one side, we have to have developed and technological systems and the data centers which are using a lot of energy. On the other side, that energy has to be produced somehow, and now due to all this climate change and requirements to preserve and save our planet, we have to make sure that that development does not go against challenges and goals to preserve global warming and lower effects of climate change, which are already very high and detrimental. Benefits and risks of AI. I think we can speak a lot, and I think we're all gonna agree about that, because first we can speak about benefits and AI risks from general perspective, also from specific sectors, or even more deeper into some industries. But I try to be, let's say, more widespread and with some focus on financial industry for sure. So as I already, I think, mentioned through my speech, AI benefits can be enhancing productivity, stimulating economic growth, promoting financial inclusion, increasing competition, and offering unparalleled data usage capabilities in terms of scale, speed, and detail. Uncertainty around AI risks. While AI offers many benefits, it also introduces risks, the magnitude of which remains uncertain due to its widespread use and rapid development. So this kind of uncertainty is really a big issue. So we cannot really easily predict what are the possibilities and what are the levels of risks that can be reached with AI. Variation of risks by technology development level. So risks associated with AI really vary depending on the level of technological development, with more advanced economies being better positioned to invest in innovative solutions than less developed ones, which means that those that are less developed can be more prone to risks and more endangered compared to those that are more advanced, developed, and simply can invest more to protect themselves from AI risks. Disparities among countries, it actually refers to what I just said. Decreased use of AI in advanced economies could lead to greater exposure to AI-related risks, potentially widening global disparities. This is very interesting because there is another also possibility, because advanced economies invest more in AI, more in technology. This is beneficial in terms of level of AI development. But at the same time, the more AI development is in place, there is potential for more AI breaches or maybe also the abuse of AI, more cyber attacks, etc. So it's maybe even sometimes when the country is more advanced in AI, it also can have and be prone to exposed to more prone, let's say, and more sophisticated cybersecurity attacks. And I also can mention here the development of quantum computing, because I've been talking to many experts from these relevant areas. I'm an economist, and those, for example, coming from IT industry, software engineering, who are very, let's say, concerned about the possibility and capabilities of, for example, quantum computers, because for now, they believe that all current encryptions is not enough to cope with quantum computer, which means quantum computers can easily break all current encryptions, which is really concerning because it means they can enter some highly secured systems, which is problematic, especially because of the potential exposure of data. Speaking about financial industry's vulnerabilities, I already said the financial system is very digitalized. Accordingly, it's really exposed to to AI risks and cybersecurity attacks, especially. So it's constantly ranked as one of the most attacked industry, while central banks seem to be a natural target for cyber attacks, being accountable for the management and oversight of critical infrastructures in the financial sector, such as payment systems. So that's the reason why we are really secured. And it is so at the beginning of the meeting, I had to communicate with my IT department, because central banks are really trying to secure themselves the best they can so they don't allow any kind of breaches. Cyber risks as absolutely the most critical threat and concern for not only financial system and central banks, but for all other industries, especially because of the data that are preserved in many databases. Among the many risks AI presents, cyber risks, as I said, are concerned the most significant and the most powerful. As AI develops, the frequency of cyber attacks increases continually. That's why I said that countries which are more developed and have more AI developed systems, they're also exposed to more cyber attacks and are more probably interesting for those who want to attack them. So this is something that the systems are really have to take care, and that's why generally financial central banks and also generally even commercial banks and all other insurance companies, etc., are really investing a lot of money to protect their systems and databases. Other notable key risks, data security, privacy concerns, lack of transparency and explainability, as I already mentioned them through my speech so far. Also, one of the risks is market concentration due to the excessive dependence on small number of AI providers, especially if you're talking about those that are the biggest. So then they are the most powerful. Then they simply can. They have a lot of data in their bases, and this is beneficial that they are very developed and they can provide good services. But on the other side, market concentration is never really something which is welcome in the systems. Significant risks are stemming from the skills gap. This is the problem, especially about rising inequality due to the skills gap. And here we come to the problem of job losses, which are induced, which are increased because of the automation development. So in order to preserve jobs and not let machines switch people, it is important to provide trainings, invest in human capital, provide upskilling and reskilling of current staff, thereby making full potential of available human resource, making sure they are not replaced by machines and using AI to boost effectiveness and support people. This is also building up on my speech before, referring to having and creating the human-centric AI, which can help people to increase and boost effectiveness and expedite some processes and activities and operations, but not to replace them. Maybe some places and some jobs will be replaced, but doesn't mean people has to be replaced. The people has to be reskilled, upskilled, trained, etc. So it is very important to preserve the already current employees and human resource, and make sure the AI contribute to their development and their work effectiveness. I will just sum up now. So first, the purpose of digital transformation. It is to improve business processes and enhance productivity. When combined with AI, it can expand possibilities by enabling computers to think and act like humans, which can be also at some points great, but also can create concerns and other issues, as I already talked about. Human-centered approach, I already put a lot of, let's say, focus on that. It is crucial to keep humans at the center. New technologies, especially generative AI, should complement human workers rather than replace them. I said human workers because we talk very often about robots as workers. That's why I put emphasis on humans as workers. The world needs human-centric AI tools to complement instead of replace people and to boost efficiency. AI has a strong transformative potential, but it can also be disruptive. AI can deteriorate overall inequality. Therefore, policymakers must proactively act to develop policies that will ensure AI is used for the good of humanity and provide benefits. Technology's impact on finance. The application of technology is transforming the financial industry, bringing benefits such as enhanced market competition, increased efficiency, faster financial services at lower cost, greater financial inclusion, among many others. Accompanying risks. These benefits come with risks, particularly related to customer privacy concerns, cybersecurity threats. Identification and minimization of risks stemming from AI is vital. And therefore, we need resilient institutions to address the challenges brought by innovations like generative AI. Society must establish future-proof institutions and robust regulatory framework. So that is the reason why central banks are really investing a lot in their cybersecurity and making sure the business continuity plans are in place, make sure that if attacks happen, they don't touch bases, data, payment system, etc. So this is very big issue and something that central banks are working on a daily basis. And so far, we can say central banks have been quite good in preserving their systems, and hopefully it will stay like that. So I only have to finish that. We need resilient institutions prone to cyber attacks, and we also need AI human-centric. So thank you. I think it's been all from me for this. I'm not sure how long I spoke. I hope it wasn't too long or too short.
No, it was okay. Thank you, Milena, very much. It was kind of inspiring talk, and you touched about some interesting topics that we can discuss, like also during this Q&A session. Uh, at the start, I will abuse my position as a moderator and ask you my question. You talked about data centers and how much the energy use. They are using more energy than it's efficient. And but on the other side, using of AI is not a choice anymore, I guess. Uh, and in order to have some information to be effectively deployed within the organization, one needs to have some preconditions. What do you think are the most important preconditions for the central banks for the installment or use or deploying the artificial intelligence? Is it like strategic direction alignment or human resources or something like that?
Of course. Yes, I think the both things you mentioned, strategy and human resources are important. First, strategy because, as you said, AI is not anymore like a choice. It's just here. And central bank of Montenegro, as you know, already has like AI for it's like a specific system to prevent cyber attacks. And it's really, really effective. So central banks are already using those systems, but they have to be really as I said, secured and has to be from some very secure providers which are relevant, etc. So I would say it has to be from strategical point that we have to preserve our security, that our systems stay cyber security very, let's say, on the highest level as possible. As I mentioned, quantum computing, this is really a scary point. And I can say I've been traveling a lot to some conferences and seminars, and it's interesting. And for example, in some banks, they think it's going to be like in 10 years, going to be quantum computers everywhere. But some of them think that won't be developed very soon because they think it's even now they stopped or let's say prevent level of application of quantum computing just because they want to prevent the strong impact that they can have to systems because systems are not enough secure to respond to, let's say, some attacks or something coming from quantum. So that's why central banks have to have strategical point of view. First, they have to understand that the development of technology is necessary, innovation are necessary, agility is absolutely something that has to be acceptable because we very often we speak about traditional type of doing projects, etc. It's of course we're gonna do project on some, let's say, structure which is normal and regular, but agility is necessary. The dynamics of changes is unbelievably fast, and it's impossible to follow up unless you are ready to to catch up with trends and say, okay, I have to change now. I'm going to do that. So we cannot just, let's say, I'm going to wait 5 years to change something because you're going to be then completely overdated. So that's why I think it's strategical level understanding. So technology has to develop. We have to apply new services. We have to modernize our systems. Central banks are absolutely opening more than probably they wanted, like, or maybe they even could forecast like 10 years ago. They just had to do that. Only the topic of central banking and digital currency already speak how much they are ready to go further and not to, let's say, stay aside while stable coins, especially big tech companies developing their own digital currencies because they can become big competition to regular money. So that's, and what is very important, people today, especially new generations, they want everything digital. So central banks have to have strategical point of view. When speaking about human resource, it's really like top priority as well. So people has to be, as I said, upskilled, reskilled. They have to be trained. And what is very interesting, it's about the culture and mentality as well. And sometimes very happy when I can say that we are small society, small country, small bank. Maybe sometimes we have some cultural issues and thinking how we can change or something. But even when you go to the most advanced countries, they have the similar problems. In some place of the country, for example, people are so ready to change. But when you go to some other, let's, for example, places, people are not really interested in change. They don't want to change their habits. They're not really ready to transform their way of functioning, and etc. So it's also on one side training issue, and skills, but also the cultural and mentality issues. So I think a lot of also the, let's say, exchange of opinions and explanation to people how important it is to accept changes, it's also a big issue. So I think if you pointed out, very great. So it's strategy absolutely necessary from the top, and also the human resource development on all levels in the system, in the central bank, or any other, I think, some banks speaking about commercial as well.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else has a question?
Hi, I have a question. My name is Amina, and thank you, Milena, so much for this presentation. And as I don't come from this field, I always learn from people like you. And I do come from a bit of a different register where I'm asking a question, how fragile might it be to talk from a perspective of human-centric, and how, when we think about planetary relations and just the protection of the planet, AI is extreme waste of energy, especially when used irresponsibly. There is a huge digital cost and human and non-human cost of using AI, particularly in the systems that are being used by capitalism. And so I'm just wondering if you think there is a space to expand the conversation to non-human centric, but actually planetary, protection type of a thing. Although I know this is very contrary to the way capitalism functions, but how do people like you, who are so embedded in the systems, but obviously have larger epistemic and ethical scope, how do you maybe navigate that space and introduce the leverage that might be really important for all the human and non-human existence in the world? And then the other thing I have to ask is, you mentioned at some point that central banks are always there to serve their main purpose, and that is the stability. But also the central banks are part of nation states, and nation states are not, it feels like nation states are polygon for capitalism mostly. My kid is playing with me while I'm asking the question. So nation states have lost their sovereignty. So the question is, are central banks players of nation states or capitalism, really? So what is the level of sovereignty that we are here talking about? Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for question. Should I respond immediately or wait for more questions? Or I can speak now?
Yeah, it's better to speak now, maybe.
Okay, I agree. Speaking first about human, non-human, when I say human-centric AI, and I already mentioned, as I said, the big consumption of energy from the perspective of AI, because you speak about really, really big consumption of AI. And what is here, like when I say AI human-centric, so if we are really human-centric, then we have to think about the planet, because if we want to prevent people, we have to prevent planet, because people live in this planet, so they're going to be endangered the same way. So as talking about preserving our planet, we also talk about preserving ourselves and helping ourselves, because I see you have a child around, so I have also a son, and I always think about future generations, what we are leaving to them. So if we are speaking about AI-centric, then we human-centric behavior, we do think at the same time about something which is boost efficiency, help people, but that something is in some boundaries. We do not endanger all those humans. And if we build on and develop AI, which is constantly consuming more and more energy, then we are going against the humans. Actually, this is not anymore human-centric. So this is maybe not just, let's say, replacing people, but this is just maybe, unfortunately, losing some big areas. People have to leave because they cannot live in some places because of the droughts, because of the rains, because of the tsunami or something. So speaking about human-centric, we actually speak about indirectly about protecting our planet and people generally. So unfortunately, AI is abused especially lately, for some purpose which probably it wasn't supposed to be at the beginning. And it's very used for fraudulent actions, which is also very bad. But I completely agree that we have to work on AI, on the ESG issues. I personally have been involved in creating the roadmap for financial sector in Montenegro for greening the financial sector. And I can say that really financial systems and industry is trying to be, let's say, good partner, because green goals and generally green economy is primarily the priority and something which is supposed to be done by the governments. But what financial systems can do? Financial systems can provide money and can provide cheaper money, let's say, can provide credits for lower rates, etc., to stimulate ESG projects and environmental projects and anything that can support the greening of our economy and decreasing the impact of climate change. So central banks, for example, the Bank of Montenegro had this in all latest strategy, the ESG targets, because we want to inspire the financial system to contribute from our own side as much as we can. As I said, again, in terms, we always have to be focused on, as I said, preserving financial monetary stability, but we can speak out and support ESG, and we have in that roadmap, we have many plans what we want to do, and it is also the insurance sector, which is very important in this area. So there are many issues that has to be touched upon. And about the sovereignty, I think the central banks are generally independent, although it's a national institution, they are independent, and they're really trying to let's say lead their work in terms of we can't completely focus on financial and monetary stability, but at the same time, as I said, helping and contributing to economic growth. So if we finding the ways to stimulate the more green transition in terms of supporting the more financial products which are green, at the same time we contribute to, for example, building more green buildings, more green infrastructure. So this is kind of an indirect level. We are trying to support all the processes, because speaking about ESG generally, even the governance, even the, if we talk about issues relevant to gender gaps and etc., very often the access to finance is problem. And you can often hear from some banks commercial that they lack enough good projects. So we believe that if we, from the perspective as central bank, we can contribute with this position, speaking about importance of ESG, importance of environment, importance of financing environmental projects, and generally ESG. So I think that the financial systems are really trying to help in that area. It's not always easy because, for example, central banks cannot influence rates directly. We can only communicate, speak, support, because the rates are made on the market, so it's between supply and demand. But we are trying to do what is in our power to boost that, and we are, as I already touched upon, we are doing also. We're trying to contribute to gender equality when it comes to access to financial services, etc. So I think a lot of things going on, and lately we also many global issues happening that maybe are contributing to some steps back, unfortunately, in achieving the Paris Agreement goals, etc. But I still believe that generally countries are really interested in, let's say, limiting the effects of climate change and global warming, because it's absolutely scary. So I wouldn't say it's just about capitalism on one side. I would definitely say that we, as regulators, central banks, we are trying our best to support that processes which are beneficial for society. I hope I replied at least. If you need more or something, I think I didn't miss anything.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Yeah, Peter.
So, thank you very much for a very interesting talk. I wanted to ask, maybe from a legal perspective, how these kind of changes affect the legal framework in which you work as a central bank, because the challenges are quite, let's say, well, complex and kind of varied, but also in terms of maybe the way that they affect the kind of the duties which the central bank thinks it has in relation to its own work, but also in relation to the let's say the overall kind of financial framework which it regulates.
Thank you, Peter. Yeah, already that happened to my presentation about privacy issues, compliance, etc. So speaking about the first, unfortunately today you don't have all financial innovations regulated, as we all know. So as I mentioned, those AI regulation, which actually adopted the EU, is the first really AI act. But speaking about the central bank, first we are to even employ any really new system, you have to have all regulatory framework in place. So there are a lot of things going on. For example, if we modernize payment systems, we have to have very strong compliance, and we as EU candidate country, so then we have to completely comply with EU regulations. So for example, it's a lot of work in terms of laws and all other accompanying regulatory framework. When it comes to AML, it's also important. There were, for example, we had to change some laws in order to, for example, if you want to provide the possibility to have somebody a credit approved online, you have to have video calls or something. So it also goes under the specific regulation. So there are so many, let's say, regulations that has to be in place. It's very detailed. It's widespread through the bank. So there are different departments and different types of risks that can come out. So it can refer to payment systems. It can also refer to the supervision department, and those regulations referring to supervision, also to payment system, security, also the IT. They have their regulatory framework that has to be in place. AML, absolutely one of the key, because anti-money laundering is really a big issue when it comes to financial innovation, because we know that some use cryptocurrencies for this kind of fraudulent works. So that's why I would say it's very horizontal, very widespread. We have it on all levels. And at the same time, we have to be compliant with EU regulations because we're candidates. So we have to comply with everything. It's a lot of work, and it's regulatory changes all the time. So we just get compliance, and then we have to comply more and more. But that's the way how it goes. I also I'm sure that you are also informed in order to support the innovation. For example, Europe, we all know, is lacking behind the US, and that's a venture capital, etc. area. So Europe is always much more, it's very, let's say, overwhelmed with regulatory framework, but on one side it's good, on one side it's challenging. So, for example, for the new generations who really want venture capital, who are prone to risks, then, for example, US market is much more interesting and easier to get access to finance compared to European market. But we just saw recently that EU also involved those new competitiveness compass project trying to, let's say, relax at least those smaller and SMEs and small companies who want to innovate, but they are really burdened with so much regulations. And then it also comes to those kind of regulations referring to securing data bases, etc. Speaking from central bank perspective, we, for example, use AI, as I already mentioned. It's kind of a specific program which helps us prevent cyber attacks And it's very useful, but sometimes it's refused very important emails. So sometimes I have to call my IT department and ask, where is my email from like Bank of France or something? It's stuck somewhere. So it happens, but it's better to be more, let's say, prevention. It's better to be more, let's say, secured than to be not secured. So we welcome this high level of security, let's say, but still, I think that is another thing. It's actually the reason why central banks today are testing central bank digital currencies, trying to protect financial stability. Because if you have too many digital currencies coming from private providers, it's risky. New generations are really interested in opening riskier markets, as I said, and they want to use many digital services. They can also probably, even maybe not knowing, expose themselves more than they should. So then they can use too many private providers, and it goes on one direction. And we need to make sure, and central banks in the world generally have to make sure that people's money is secure. So they can use cash, they can use digital services, but to make sure that they are secured. And so there are many issues, and absolutely the legal part is, and general compliance is a very big question. But as a small bank, we can, especially speaking about central bank in Montenegro, we really have to follow how the EU is doing. So we are following it. And it's a very robust framework, as you know. It's a lot of things that we have to comply with. But it's always better to be, let's say, follow a very good benchmark and comply with high regulations than to stand behind or something. But still, as we mentioned, it brings challenges, because then let's say, it takes some time to modernize compared to US, which are like just going further and further with those more riskier markets and capital market generally. So I think this the EU, the steps they've taken in this competitiveness and omnibus package is very good, because it can at least relax those small companies, because I think it's impossible for them to, in this small frame time, comply with even the ESG standards, AI regulations, etc., etc. So yeah, I think the legal perspective is, I'm an economist, and I sit with my colleague who is she's a lawyer, and I always go back to her. Let's check this from your perspective. I want to hear her voice, because I think it's really, really important. And you cannot do anything if it is outside legal framework. So we really make sure that everything we do is according to the laws, applicable regulations, etc., etc. So that's a very good question, and I think it's like work in progress, never really ending, always something to comply with.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any more questions? By the way, while we are waiting for questions, I'm very glad to see your optimism about human-centric AI, because AI are generally considered as a black box, and we don't know how much do we have people that would understand AI at all. And there is a question, how much would they be human-centric and how long?
Yeah.
But that's an open question. You don't need to answer to
Yes,
that.
but also, I'm not interrupting. I just want to say one thing. As I mentioned with quantum computing, also they are like the most advanced. They are computers, but as I already said, I heard various opinions. For example, one thing, as I said, they will come here like in 10 years and breaching everything, and we have to boost our technological development to prevent our systems from that. But on the other side, as they realize that, they started to, let's say, I wouldn't say lower development of quantum computing, but let's say they are less something which is much more in the center as it was in one moment. So I believe that, speaking about, as you said, we don't know how further human-centered we can be. But I think also here it's going to be some kind of a, at least so-called, I wouldn't say balance, but generally they will decide to, like, let's say, stop a little bit. So because we need people, we need humans, we cannot just let's say, let's have all robots around us. So because then they're gonna go probably against us, so it wouldn't be really beneficial. So we have to make sure we are those who lead, and we are ahead of robots. So because recently I read some interesting research where they put like robot in one without data, and robot just used some background data and whatever he saw around, and completely starting creating his new attitudes, opinions, reactions. So this is where it comes, the robots absolutely behave like humans. So we cannot let robots do everything like we, so we have to make sure we are still majority.
Yeah, they would see us as an obstacle for the energy source, I guess, at some point.
Really
If
big,
there
as I
are,
mentioned.
yeah. Well, if there are no any other questions, Tina, we can conclude this session.
Yes, Milena, thank you once again for your time, and Milo, thank you also. Next week we have our last seminar for this generation of fellows, so please be with us, and have a nice rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it, and it was really happy to prepare this presentation. So yeah, I'll be happy to join some of your seminars to listen to other fellows. So yeah, good luck with all further work.
Thank you, Milena, very much.
Thank you too.
Bye.
Bye.